Fame comes with the assumption of transparency.
Very specific image, because I mean, you ruin people's fantasy thing.
If something significant is happening to a public figure, most people expect to find out through a press release, a statement, a candid interview, a tabloid headline.
"'Tis battle." That's no way to end your life, you know.
The idea that someone the whole world knows could be quietly dying, quietly suffering, quietly carrying something enormous without anyone outside a small circle of trusted people ever knowing. It feels almost impossible. And yet it happens. Some of the most famous people who ever lived kept the most important chapters of their lives entirely private until the very end. Today we look at every celebrity whose final days were kept secret.
How negative the steps may be, it comes from the origin of those things coming from a justified point.
In 2016, while filming Captain America: Civil War, his first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Chadwick Boseman was asked in an interview what he had in common with T'Challa, the character he was about to make famous. He said he was a keeper of secrets, grinned, and moved on. The audience laughed. Nobody knew how precisely true that was. That same year, he had been diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. He told almost no one. His mother had taught him not to have people fuss over him, his longtime agent said. He was also, in a more practical sense, determined to keep working, to do what he had come to Hollywood to do while he still could.
Of the show called me into their offices and told me how happy they were with my performance. They wanted me to be around for a long time. They said, if there was anything that I needed, just let them know.
He filmed Black Panther, Avengers, Infinity War, and Avengers, Endgame through chemotherapy and surgeries. Director Ryan Coogler, who spent years in close collaboration with him, had no idea. Director Spike Lee shot Da 5 Bloods with him in tropical heat in Vietnam, watched him appear to struggle physically, assumed he was tired from the demands of the shoot, and had no idea. Marvel Studios did not know. Even Kevin Feige, who led the studio, received an email about Boseman's condition only in the final hour after the actor had already died. He died on August 28, 2020, at 43. His family's announcement explained everything at once. The weight loss that had puzzled fans, the physical toll visible across his final films, the extraordinary discipline required to appear in some of the most demanding action productions in Hollywood history while managing a terminal illness. His widow said he never wanted to be judged by what he was experiencing. He wanted to be known for the work. The work remains.
It was fun working with Rick, showing him pointers, maybe new ways of approaching comedy that he hadn't really thought about before, I think.
In January 2016, David Bowie released Black Star, an album of dense, strange, beautiful music that reviewers praised without quite understanding. The imagery in the videos was dark and ceremonial. The lyrics returned repeatedly to themes of departure, legacy, and the body in decline. Critics called it one of his finest records and moved on to other things. 2 days later, he was dead. He had been diagnosed with liver cancer in 2014 and spent 18 months keeping the information from essentially everyone beyond his immediate family and a handful of collaborators. He did not cancel his work, but recorded the album with a small band in New York, directing the sessions with the precision that had always defined him, shaping every detail of what would become his farewell. Producer Tony Visconti,
I don't want live instruments anymore because MIDI was all the range, and he knew that you can do some great orchestral sounds.
later said that Bowie intended the album to be a parting gift, that the timing of its release, just before his death, was deliberate. The songs were the statement. The announcement of his death was an afterthought. His close friends said afterward that in his final months, Bowie seemed at peace, engaged with the work, present with the people he loved, uninterested in turning his illness into a public narrative. He had spent 50 years controlling how he was perceived, reinventing himself on his own terms, deciding what the audience would see and when. His death was the final act of that control. He was 69 years old.
Very, very specific image, because I mean, you ruin people's fantasy thing. Like, I mean, every time somebody hears a song, it's...
By the late 1980s, something had visibly changed about Freddie Mercury. He was thinner. He appeared less frequently in public. His voice was still extraordinary, but the physical presence that had made him one of the most electrifying performers of his era was diminished. Journalists speculated. His management deflected. His bandmates protected the information they had been trusted with. He had been living with HIV since the mid-1980s, at a time when the disease carried an almost incomprehensible social stigma, and when a diagnosis, made public, could destroy a career and bring down a fury of media coverage that had no interest in dignity. He continued to record with Queen through the period of his illness. The album Innuendo, released in 1991, was made while he was seriously unwell, requiring him to sit between vocal takes because standing had become difficult. The band and close circle around him maintained the privacy he had asked for. On November 23, 1991, he issued a single statement confirming he had AIDS. He died the following evening, at home in Kensington, with close friends around him. He was 45 years old.
There's always people that come up like that, and for me, you can always tell somebody who's going to stay, and Boy George is going to stay.
The disclosure that came 24 hours before his death was the only public acknowledgement he ever made of his diagnosis. The years of silence before it were complete. What he did with those years, the recordings, the performances, the work produced while managing a disease that was systematically taking his body, is the fuller story.
The only people who don't look back with regret are idiots and psychopaths. And I got a lifetime of regrets.
When Robin Williams died in August 2014, the world understood his death as the outcome of depression, the shadow side of a comedic genius, familiar with darkness, who had finally been overwhelmed by it. That understanding was incomplete in ways that only became clear after the autopsy. He did not have depression as a primary diagnosis. He had Lewy body dementia, abnormal protein deposits spreading through nearly every region of his brain and brainstem.
It tells alcoholics we can drink. It's the same voice you hear if you can go up to the top of a very large building and you look over the side. There's a little voice that goes, jump.
In what the neuropathologist who examined him described as one of the worst cases the pathology lab had ever seen. For the last year of his life, he was experiencing paranoia, hallucinations he disclosed only to doctors, severe anxiety, cognitive confusion, and the terrifying awareness that his mind was deteriorating. He sought help from numerous specialists. He was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's disease in May 2014, 3 months before his death. None of the doctors connected the full picture into the correct underlying condition while he was alive. His widow, Susan Schneider Williams, wrote about his final months in a medical journal under the title, "The Terrorist Inside My Husband's Brain." She described watching him try to be himself, to perform, to function, to be present, while the disease dismantled the mechanisms that had made him who he was. The condition was hidden not through any deliberate decision to keep it private, but because it was invisible even to the people trying to help him. He died without knowing what was wrong. The name for it came only after.
I don't know, it happened to me last night after the screening because somebody went up to my brother and congratulated him on his performance.
4 days after David Bowie died, Alan Rickman died. Both were 69 years old. Both were British cultural figures of the first order. Both had kept their cancer diagnoses almost entirely private. For people who had loved the work of both men across decades, the week of January 2016 was a particular kind of shock. Not once, but twice, the announcement arriving with no warning, no public knowledge of illness, no period of preparation. Rickman had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in August 2015, after a minor stroke led to further tests. The cancer was already advanced. The disease progressed rapidly. His neighbors, who saw him in the weeks before his death, described him as upbeat, smiling, entirely normal in appearance. He had told some friends around December. His decline was swift enough that the people he had not yet found occasion to tell were still finding out when he died, on January 14th, 2016. He had also, separately, battled an aggressive form of prostate cancer a decade earlier, in 2005. At the time, he was filming Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. He kept that private too, writing in his diary only that the argument that won was the one that said, "See it through. It's your story." Both illnesses, both decisions to continue working, both kept from almost everyone. A pattern of privacy that said something consistent about who he was and what mattered to him. The work was the story. The rest was no one else's business.
The word sullen in the dictionary said someone who's melancholy, morose, and so and I said if you added brilliant.
Gene Wilder was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2013. He did not tell the public. His nephew explained afterward that Wilder had made the decision specifically because of the children, the generations of young people who had grown up watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and who carried that film and that performance with them. He did not want them to learn that the man behind Willy Wonka had Alzheimer's. He wanted to protect the image that existed for them. He wanted them to keep the version of him they had. He continued to make occasional, public appearances. He spoke in interviews. He was warm and present and did not reveal the diagnosis in any public forum across 3 years of living with the disease. A small number of people who were close to him knew. The broader public did not. He died in August 2016, at the age of 83, at his home in Stamford, Connecticut. His family's statement disclosed the Alzheimer's diagnosis and explained the years of privacy in the same breath. The response was wide and moved, from people who had watched him in Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles and Silver Streak, as much as from those who remembered him as Wonka. The calculation he had made about protecting children's memories was characteristic of how he had always seemed, warm to the point of selflessness, deeply attentive to the effect of his work on other people, more concerned with what he gave than what he took.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure if the cancer dies, if you die, the cancer also dies at exactly the same time.
Norm Macdonald spent 9 years with cancer and told virtually no one. He was diagnosed in 2012 and managed his condition privately, with a small group of people in his life aware of the situation. He continued to perform stand-up, record interviews, tape a Netflix special. He appeared on late-night television. He did all the things that Norm Macdonald did, without indicating at any point that he was working through something that many people would not be working through at all. His logic was consistent with the person he was publicly. He did not want his illness to change how audiences experienced his comedy. He was a comedian. The work was the jokes. If audiences knew he was dying, they would laugh differently, or they would not laugh at all, and the whole transaction would be altered by something that had nothing to do with whether the joke was funny. He wanted the jokes to be the thing, so he kept the rest out of it. He died in September 2021 at 61. His longtime producing partner, Laurie Jo Hoekstra, confirmed the diagnosis and explained the years of privacy in her statement. Friend said later that his humor had never changed, that he had remained himself, funny, strange, exact in his thinking, right up to the end, with no performance of bravery or acceptance, because performing anything other than what he intended had never been his way.
His own absolute style. He could not alter that style. You had to go along with him. You could not get him to go along with you.
Right.
Rock Hudson had been one of the most successful leading men in Hollywood for 3 decades. Handsome, reliable at the box office, trusted by studios. He appeared alongside Doris Day and Elizabeth Taylor. He was a fixture of 1950s and 1960s American cinema, and his public image was constructed with the full machinery of the studio system behind it. The manufactured romances, the careful press management, the persistent and deliberate effort to present him as something he was not. He was gay. He had known it his entire adult life and had kept it entirely concealed because the industry required it and because the consequences of disclosure would have ended the career that defined his existence. The secret held for decades. Then, in 1985, the AIDS diagnosis made it impossible to hold any longer. He appeared gaunt and visibly ill beside Doris Day at a press conference, and the speculation that followed led, eventually, to a public acknowledgement of his condition in July of that year. He died in October 1985 at 59.
Here now the news. Actor Rock Hudson dead, his year-long battle with AIDS at an end.
He was the first major American celebrity to publicly acknowledge having AIDS, and the impact of that acknowledgement, however involuntary, however late, was significant. It forced a conversation the country had been avoiding, brought substantial attention and funding to a disease that had been treated as invisible or shameful, and changed the public understanding of who was affected. Both secrets, his sexuality and his illness, were kept for as long as they possibly could be, and then kept no longer.
When you get too worried about the human body and this lifetime, and you put too much effort in it, in a negative sense, like fighting someone.
Prince died alone. On the morning of April 21st, 2016, he was found unresponsive in an elevator at Paisley Park, his studio and home complex in Chanhassen, Minnesota. The medical examiner's report confirmed an accidental fentanyl overdose. The doses were extraordinary, far beyond what could produce a therapeutic effect. The prescription opioid dependency that had led him there had been hidden from virtually everyone around him. He had been struggling with severe hip pain for years, the accumulated physical cost of decades of performance, the jumps, the splits, the relentless physicality of his shows delivered in heeled boots on hard stages. He had reportedly sought treatment in the final weeks of his life, flying to see a specialist shortly before his death. But the scale of the dependency and the extent to which it had developed in private became clear only through the investigation that followed. The other dimension of his secret life was financial. He died without a will. An estate worth hundreds of millions of dollars had no documented plan, leaving a complex and protracted legal dispute among his heirs and family members. Prince, who had fought publicly and famously for artist control, who had written the word slave on his face in protest of his record label, who had changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol rather than comply with a contract, had left the most fundamental legal protection for his own legacy entirely unaddressed. The private man and the very public symbol were, in the end, strikingly different things.
You're to desensitize. You go through the same procedure that you would if you were flying, going to the desk, calling, checking on a flight.
Aretha Franklin had been quietly reducing her public presence for several years before her death in August 2018. She canceled concert appearances, citing various health concerns. She accepted a notable award at a ceremony in 2017 in what turned out to be her final public performance. But she never confirmed what was wrong, and the details of her condition were closely held. She had pancreatic cancer. The diagnosis had been kept private in a way so complete that even the legal and practical arrangements of her life were handled as though the future were open. When she died, it emerged that she had left no valid will. Multiple handwritten documents found in her home, one tucked under sofa cushions, were entered into legal proceedings, leading to years of disputes about their validity and her intentions. A woman who had spent decades as one of the most powerful and deliberate artists in American music, who had controlled her image and career with remarkable firmness, had left the most basic structures of her estate entirely unresolved. The combination told a story that was both private and poignant. The illness hidden from the public, the estate unprepared for the end, the family left to work out what she had wanted in proceedings that stretched years beyond her death. She was 76. Her voice had filled rooms and moved people and changed what American music sounded like for 50 years. The arrangements that would preserve that legacy were, in the end, uncertain and contested in ways she might not have intended. 10 people who kept the most important things private. Some did it to protect their work, to prevent the illness from becoming the story when the performance was the story. Some did it to protect others, to spare children, fans, family members from carrying something heavy. Some did it because privacy was simply how they had always lived, and a diagnosis did not change that. Some did it because the social conditions of their time gave them no other choice. What is consistent across every story is that the public version and the private reality diverged sharply and for a long time. The face we knew, the performances, the records, the press appearances, the public image, was being maintained alongside something enormous that we were not allowed to see. Some of these people managed that separation with extraordinary discipline across years. Others for a matter of months. All of them, in their own way, decided that some things belong only to the person living. Them. If any of these stories stayed with you, if one of them changes how you'll think about a performance, or a record, or an image you've carried for years, we'd be glad to hear about it in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring these quieter, less told sides of famous lives, subscribing is the best way to stay with us.